Hey everybody, John Reardon here for Nintendo World Report TV. I am joined by Joel DeWitt and Alex DeFreitas. We are going to talk about some Nintendo Direct stuff. We're going to talk about a new Fire Emblem, which is not Genealogy of the Holy War.
Thankfully.
I was going to say, I am not deeply ingrained in the Fire Emblem fandom. I just know that that was kind of the next expected game. At least that's
correct.
As far as I knew. Okay. So, Alex, as the most Fire Emblem-y person here, were you surprised when this came on screen instead of Genealogy? Did you think this might be Genealogy for a second?
Well, when we first saw what was it opens with a big shot of a city, and I didn't know exactly what was going on. At this point, it could have been Xenoblade. And then you go in further, and then I see the Colosseum architecture.
Mm-hmm.
And Genealogy of the Holy War does have an arena feature, but this looked like a Fire Emblem Awakening arena to me.
It looks like the Fire Emblem level from Super Smash Bros.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah.
It's the same one.
Yeah.
And then it keeps going, and as soon as you start seeing the character designs, it starts to register this is Three Houses. This is that team. I believe it's Koei Tecmo that worked on Three Houses. Assisted Intelligence Systems, because it's the Warriors engine.
Yes.
Playing a Fire Emblem game.
Yes. Because why wouldn't that be a good idea?
They needed help. They didn't know how to make the 3DS engine work on Switch, I think was the issue there. The only Fire Emblem game that was on Switch at that point was Warriors, the first Warriors.
Oh, that's true. Did the first Warriors come out before Three Houses? It must have.
It did. Yeah, because that was first year. Yeah.
Joel.
Yes.
Was this how long did it take you to realize you were looking at Fire Emblem?
It didn't take that long, actually. They got to the Colosseum part near the beginning, and it had a look where, and a sound, they always have that kind of blaring trumpet backdrop in these trailers. So you could feel it coming, I think, if you had enough of an eye for it. My experience is much less extensive than Alex's when it comes to Fire Emblem. I started with Awakening, and I dabbled in that, and then Three Houses. So I think for me, I want to know more about the systems, and that's something silly to complain about when this is meant to be a splashy trailer. It wouldn't be too exciting looking at a bunch of grids for half of it, right?
Did you play Engage?
I did not, no.
Okay. Now, was that an intentional choice, or just didn't get around to it?
Wasn't the right mood for it.
Okay.
And frankly, seeing this trailer made me think, I wonder if I should look back at Engage and see what I missed there. But
because that was going to be my main question with this, because I'm kind of coming from a similar spot as you, Joel, where I played Awakening. I dabbled in the other 3DS games a little bit. I played Three Houses and hated it. And then I played Engaged and loved it. And so I'm very curious which way this one will lean, because Engage fixed so many of the problems I had with Three Houses, but I also know there are people who loved Three Houses who bounced off of Engage.
Yeah, Three Houses is the more popular game, and it has more of, I guess, what we would call the persona appeal of developing relationships with your student characters and investing into the army on a unit level, is he's tracking the progress and having the class branch promotions and the weapons proficiencies to invest in on the spell list. It's so much more detailed than Engage, where it's just you're one class, then you promote into the next. Maybe you swap on over to another branch if you want.
Yeah, Engage felt much more interested in
the actual maps,
the maps and combat mechanics specifically. Which resonated with me much more than Three Houses, like you said, the persona-ishness of Three Houses.
I like the social features of Three Houses. My problem is if I can explore a world and then feel like this would be better off as a menu. To me, that's kind of my challenge with it. It sounds like I should check out Engage from what you're saying.
Engage for me felt much more like Awakening.
Okay.
It felt like, and I realized I'm already a fake Fire Emblem fan for that one being my reference point. But from where I'm at, Engage felt like what I wanted. But it also had a much more, it didn't have the rich narrative that Three Houses had. It was pretty straightforward. Most of the characters looked dumb, but it did run slightly
and acted
better.
Dumber.
Yeah. But yeah, so this one,
Fortune's Weave.
Did anybody pick out anything about the gameplay so far? You are riding on an ostrich or an emu, so that's exciting.
Yes.
I got the impression that a lot of is this a game about like gladiatorial combat?
Yes, so it seems like the setting this time around is not a school, but maybe a tournament arc or a set of arena challenges, and all these people are coming for perhaps fame and fortune in a weave kind of fashion. I don't know, but yeah, that seems to be the conceit this time around, which I like. I like that we're not doing a school again.
Yes,
but then the question arises, like, how do you build a war level scale so that you can have these big battles take place, and are you really investing in this one person's journey throughout the arena challenges? Like, is this just one gladiator that you're invested in, and how do they partner up with others?
Yeah, they do highlight several different characters in the trailer, and I will also say that I kind of wonder if we'll get, like, Fire Emblem Three Houses. I guess several of the Fire Emblem games have like a time skip halfway through.
Yep.
That kind of changes the context of what you're doing. And I sort of wonder if this will do the same thing, where early on we'll be in this gladiatorial setting, and then we'll get some sort of time skip or something, and then we'll be taking these characters that we've met in that context out into, you know, some grand war that's more traditional to the series.
Yeah, and we didn't know about the time skip for Three Houses until it was almost out, and there was this trailer that kind of blew everybody's minds, where they showed the characters post time skip in a war setting. So, yeah,
Nintendo can't resist spoiling their games just before they come out. That is a Nintendoism.
But if we're going off of like what we can infer on a gameplay systems level, I'm seeing a lot of things that are non-traditional Fire Emblem, like. One of your main characters, Kai, here is riding on what looks to be an ostrich and wielding a spear. You know, this isn't a lord with a rapier equivalent. So right off the bat, that's different. You're fighting looks to be a mounted unit on a chariot. That seems to be different. Like we're seeing a lot of things that fall outside of the norm for Fire Emblem classes.
Well, speaking of falling outside of the norm, if I remember right, Three Houses didn't use the weapon triangle, right?
It did not. I know that if you were to play in maddening mode, it would give all of your enemies a like the bow breaker or axe breaker skill, so that it kind of coded in the weapon triangle in that mode. But the normal mode did not have weapon triangle.
So yeah, I'm curious if that, because obviously for Engage they added that back in. I'm curious which way this one will go.
Do you think maybe the strategy would be, like, for the system, the first one is a wide tent game, and then the second one's the narrow focus for a subsection of the audience?
I think like the Persona branch and the mainline branch, that's probably a reductive way to talk about it. But yeah, because I mean, Three Houses was so popular that it makes sense to continue that line.
Right.
And but I do appreciate that they're not going to stick to it 100%.
There was pushback on Engage when that came out for how different it was from Three Houses, which once again, like for a lot of people, Three Houses was probably the only Fire Emblem game they ever played.
Right.
So if that's your intro, then yeah, Engage would be wild. So it does make sense, I think, to, I guess, sort of find a middle ground, because there were people, like plenty of people did like Engage. I think Engage reviewed fairly well, but I don't think it sold anywhere near what Three Houses sold. But I think just aesthetically and narratively, it doesn't have the appeal of Three Houses. And I think this one maybe looks like it might land a little. This is a much easier sell visually than Engage is with its toothpaste hair protagonist.
Even though I think Engage looks better on a fidelity level.
Yes, on a technical level,
even
Engage
better than this.
Clowns on Three Houses. Yeah, it runs way better. I am curious to see if we're still in the Warriors engine.
Well, we do see the Gambit play out about a minute into the trailer, and that's where you see like all your backup units coming in and do an attack for you, and that always felt very Warriors-y, because you have all these NPCs clustered together in a group doing an attack. So I think that might still be the case. This could be the Three Hopes upgraded version of the engine.
Yeah.
For this
we did see, not to get off topic, but we did see Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, or Age of Imprisonment, sorry, in this direct as well, which was running at like 60 frames per second, mostly. So it hopefully seems that this engine is doing better on Switch 2 than it was on Switch 1, because there were some great Warriors Engines games on Switch 1, but none of them ran well.
Yeah, I agree. Hyrule Warriors looked pretty good. You know, the only slowdown I noticed was when it went to co-op. But
when they did split screen, I think we just dropped to a hard 30.
Yeah, but
which makes sense.
You know, yeah, I mean, you see Mario Kart doing something similar, right? It's a even compromise.
So the main thing that I took away from this is that it doesn't seem like we have a player insert character, which thank God we don't, because Byleth was maybe the worst part of Three Houses for me on a narrative level, because I enjoyed the plot for what it was, especially in the Blue Lions and Black Eagles route. But one of the worst aspects was how the characters would react to Byleth. Like, it would always just suck up to you, and it was uncomfortable to play that way. This one, we don't see a like insert character, somebody who doesn't have a personality of their own. We have what looks to be a set of protagonists, all with their own interests, and I'm not sure if we're going to get like different perspectives on the same story, or how it's going to play out, if they're going to do like multiple routes or whatnot.
Yeah, it honestly reminded me of the early trailers for Octopath Traveler, the way each character was introduced. I got the impression that maybe the blue-haired kid is sort of our lead. He's the one we briefly see actual gameplay of running around the city from a third-person perspective as him at about the 47-second mark in the trailer. So that could mean that he's sort of our default dude. But
he's got like a plucky shonen protagonist.
He's got the vibes
sort of thing going on. But he does seem to have his own like wants and desires and reasons to be here, rather than just being like a empty vessel for the player character, or for the player.
Yeah.
The other thing that I noticed, or I guess I'm concerned about, is that Three Houses had this problem of reusing maps throughout the campaign and across the different routes. This time around, I hope that they've learned and have better map design than Three Houses, because I thought the map design in Three Houses was very poor. So I hope that we get better designed maps and more of them that don't get repeated. But I don't know, there's been a couple of maps, I've talked with a couple of friends about them already, that look kind of empty and boring, and you don't see any interesting objectives. The one that I did like a lot from the little that we did see was that first one they showed off, where you're the character riding the ostrich, because you're in this arena. If you look at the mini map in the top right, you see that you're kind of splintered off in these different quadrants, and there's a lot of doorways.
Yeah. A lot of
you can
lanes,
kind of block off. Lanes. Exactly. So there's some stuff to play with there. So that's one of my main concerns is I hope that we don't have the multiple route splits that we had in Three Houses, or maybe they manage them in a different way where they're not just reusing content over and over. Keep it fresh. Maybe make the map design a little bit better. Maybe lessen the amount of time spent in the hub doing a bunch of menuing and all the unit investment stuff, which I thought was neat, but it became a chore after a while. And I want to see them take a little bit more of the engage route of let's focus on the combat on the maps. This could be a little bit more social, but not so much that I'm spending 2 hours between actual chapters.
And even Engage got the more characters you get, the more confusing those mid-mission menu visits can be. Like, they could do a lot of just quality of life, almost optimization of, like, let me push a button and equip all the strongest gear to this character. Because once you're managing an entire army, and you're like, okay, what sword should this guy use? It gets a little monotonous. Some people are going to dig that, but it would be nice to have some accessibility there.
Yeah, and it's a double-edged sword, because part of the fun of Fire Emblem is that you want to invest in your individual units so that you care about them.
Right.
But that raises the stakes when you're on the map, because they might permanently die.
If you play that way.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure. And they might just, include Divine Pulse where you can just undo any mistake that you made. And I hope that gets toned down a little bit, where maybe you only get like 3 charges per map. That would be my ideal. But yeah, if unit investment becomes too much of the focus, then permadeath starts to lose its meaning, and you want to like lessen that as a potential failure for the player, because then it's going to feel too bad if you've already like spent hours customizing a unit to be your favorite. So I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Any closing thoughts?
I hope it's good.
Me too.
Don't rely on the horse character at the start. It's a trap.
Depends on the game, but sure. Yeah, that's probably like a good thing for casual players to know.
At least that was a trap for Awakening. I remember that very clearly.
What if the horse is an ostrich?
With a plucky shonen protagonist on top.
Mechanically, is an ostrich a horse or a unicorn?
It's
or a Pegasus, I guess.
Well, it's a grounded mount, so it's a horse.
It has wings. So, like, is it weak to an archer?
Okay, I'm actually looking at it right now, and right next to the class name, there is a horse icon, not a wing icon, so it's a horse.
Uh-huh. Okay. Ostriches are horses. I learned something today.
You heard it here first. I think that's a good note to end on that educational comment. So we'll call it there.
This video was made possible by our generous supporters on Patreon. Check out patreon.com/NWR for all the details.